Very good evening, friends. Meeting again in the session of Robert's philosophy, and we are discussing a scientific chapter from Robert's philosophy, that is the phenomenological point of view. In this specific chapter, he tried to correlate the homeopathic science with the modern terminologies. Homeopathic science is not only a dynamic science, it is a science goes hand in hand with the laws of statistics, which goes with the laws of physics, laws of chemistry, laws of biochemistry, laws of um, astronomy, or laws of even physics, astrophysics, mathematics, everything we used to take into consideration when we think about the homeopathic laws. Only thing is that the correlation has been not clearly explained, and because of which the people never understood. The people from modern science requires the things in their own terminologies, own language. If we talk in the sense of dynamics, it is rather difficult and rather difficult to believe also on this. But if we talk in the language of physics, in the form of a potential energy, in the form of chemical energy, in the form of kinetic energy, the people starts understanding, because that is the language of a science. Robert has tried his level best to make it simplified in this language so that everyone can understand what is there in homeopathy. The phenomenon are important, the manifestations are important, but at the same time, how these phenomena are produced, how these phenomena are produced in natural disease and how these phenomena are produced in artificial disease, we must able to understand what exactly happens, how this energy getting converted. So in any medicine, for example, a simple sodium salt, when we used to use or we used to consume in daily diet without producing any effects on the human being or our cell. But same natrum muriaticum, when potentized, makes a difference, and when the stimulus is given, that stimulates reflex. So what is there in natrum in as a medicine? That aspect he is trying to explain over there. So when you reduce the material, we reach to the atom, and atom is always made up of three structures. At the center, there is a proton and neutron. At the periphery, there are electron. And when you do a nuclear division of the that atom, then the energy which is stored inside it is completely released. And this energy is the energy of homeopathic medicine. With the help of trituration, with the help of succussion, both the methods, we used to do a nuclear division of it. We used to release the energy, and that energy works for the patient, works as a stimulant, and patient starts reflecting the symptoms. And those symptoms, those manifestations are the external manifestations of internal change, which has happened because of the energy which is applied in the form of those medicines. So potentized medicines means they are really potentized with energy. And this concept he is trying to explain over there. And even modern science started accepting it. They have reduced the larger doses of their supplements. They started giving it in a fine manner. So they started giving it in micrograms, the thyroxine in the microgram, the vitamins in very microgram or in the international units. Because they have started understanding the importance of minimum dose, or they have started understanding the law of least quantity. And that once they started understanding, they have also accepted the theory of what Hahnemann have told a way back, the law of minimum dose. And how this minimum dose work and why it works, that aspect he is trying to explain over there. We were there on page number 264. Let us start with the second paragraph of it. This leads us to meditate upon the comparative value of trituration and succussion as a means of stimulating the atom to release the release of energy. It is impossible, of course, to attack the atom of lime by the same measures one employs to attack the molecular formation of the light. In some substances, it is imperative to break down the bulk by trituration, while others are soluble in liquid and thus approach the state where the potential energy may be most readily released. If we are able to view the actual composition of the atom and its permeability, we might gain a fair idea of the reasons for the energy release under the different methods. This problem is allied equally to the construction of atom and its destruction, and with the result of wresting from it the greatest possible degree of its peculiar and intrinsic energy. So the methods, there are two types of methods we used to use in homeopathy for preparing the medicine. For solid substances, we used to use the method called as a trituration, where we apply force externally and we reduce the content of or quantity of a medicine. When it reaches to that fine level, atom level, we try to apply a force externally in the process of trituration in a scientific manner, in a mathematical way. And when we do that, we prepare 1x potency. From 1x, again, we prepare 2x potency, 3x potency gradually as we go on reducing the medicinal substance. But when you apply force externally to break down the nucleus and remove the potential energy stored over there, the medicine becomes kinetically energized. Then that in that same medicine in crude form was not acting or not showing any manifestation, now starts showing manifestation because energy is getting released over there. That is the energy which was present inside. Only thing is that Hahnemann have utilized word vital energy. And we are using, in the scientific terminology, it was potential energy which was there, and rather, you, with the help of force, you are making it more free in the form of a kinetic energy. With the both methods, the succussion and trituration, we used to apply external forces. When we break down that energy which is stored inside the atom, then it becomes rather active medicine. So as we go on increasing the potency, the energy is getting more and more released and it becomes more and more energized medicine. Then he further said, in viewing our potencies, we find the statistical laws govern in materia medica when we casually assume that remedy provings in the lower dilutions will be applicable in equal degree and unvaryingly in the highest potencies. Again, we assume that any potency, say the 200, is always to be dependent upon uniform results in spite of widely varying methods of development. To be sure, and experience has taught us that certain remedies have certain symptoms, which are more or less fixed in all proving and which act with greater or less regularity, sufficient as the basis for statistical observations when applied clinically. Herein lies our art in homeopathy. But just here we say ourselves, we lay ourselves open to criticism as being the scientist we claim to be. What happens when we prepare the medicines in homeopathy? If we apply the statistical laws, we used to apply in the material form, we used to apply the statistical laws. But things happens that there are little bit differences while preparing the medicine. First important thing, the source itself. Source is, even though genuine, there are variations when you take the same plant from a different area. So little bit differences always happens to be there when we brew the drugs or prepare the drug. Second important thing, even though we apply statistical laws, the same, that is the when we prepare it in a trituration method, one we used to apply 1:10 proportion over there, or when we prepare medicines with decimal scale. If we prepare with centesimal scale, we used to apply statistical mathematics, that is 1:100. But applying the force over there matters a lot if we use or we make it with the help of human being. Because every human being doesn't carry the same force. If it is prepared with the help of an instrument, then it is very specific. If you apply that force should be of this much of energy, then it will be fixed. But in human being, when we prepare the medicines, then there are definitely little bit differences between them. And these differences used to happen, and that we must accept. And that's why last sentence which he mentioned over there is very important. Herein lies our art in homeopathy, but here, just here, we may ourselves open. We lay ourselves open to criticism as being scientists we claim to be. So there are little bit differences, and because of which we might get a criticism, but that we have to accept because of such methods. Then he further goes. So he is explaining where lacunas are there. What can we do for those lacunas? Millikan tells us that under the bombardment of the by the alpha rays, Millikan tells us that under bombardment by alpha rays, an element may be built up to a higher atomic level. At the same time, neutrons may be thrown off as a byproduct of artificial transmutation. These neutrons are presumably constituents of all nuclei except hydrogen, and many nuclear transformations throw them out. Neutrons carry no electrical charge. 8. They are themselves weapons that may be hurled into atomic targets, making the atom unstable. This instability tends to step the atom down 1 degree, and proton nucleus of hydrogen flies out. Millikan tells us further that neutrons does not require great energy to get into nucleus to transform. If it does so with violence, the result is to shatter the nucleus and thus produce several substances of small atomic weights than the struck nucleus itself. On the other hand, it tends to fall in more easily and oftener when they have show speeds than when try to force their way in with violence. In this way, it adds its masses to that of the nucleus so that process results in quiet building of heavier atom. The language which is rather difficult to understand, or it is too heavy for us. Simple inference is that Millikan has shown the scientificity behind how these atoms are broken down. What exactly gets broken down? And once it is broken down, how the release energy gets released. This is the simple technique. When we do a nuclear division with the help of bombardment of alpha rays over there, how this energy is absolutely conserved. This is done in the any labs, big laboratory. But when we prepare homeopathic medicines, we do it in our pharmacies. When we prepare medicine in this manner with the help of trituration or succussion method, what do? We apply similar type of force in a standard manner, in a specific way, in a said manner, and we used to prepare the medicine. Only thing is that the energy released is not once for all. Every time when we prepare medicine gradually from 1x, 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x, gradually, every time we release more and more energy from the same substance. So this is nothing but the scientific method with which we go ahead and with which we finds it out the way for the homeopathic medicines to work. So there is a one criticism against the homeopathic remedies that homeopathic medicines are placebo effects. Robert has tried his level best to explain that these are not placebos. In fact, these are the medicines which are more stronger because they carry a lot of energy inside it. The whole phenomena which he is explaining in this with the help of all those books or references is to show the scientificity behind homeopathic medicines, the scientificity behind preparation of the homeopathic medicines, and explanation of the trituration and succussion, why Hahnemann came to that and why Hahnemann have done developed those both the methods, and how Hahnemann was scientific because he has used mathematics along with the science over there. It is not just preparing a tea by anyone. So everywhere Hahnemann have tried his level best to explain the things in a scientific manner. Further he goes, so far no technique has been devised to determine what the relation of trituration and succussion to energy release really means to the homeopathic preparation of the remedy. Whether we actually change the character of element with which we deal, and if so, whether or not this is in a fixed ratio is a problem for homeopathic physicists. This is a field not yet developed, but one that offers challenge to the homeopathy. Here is an open question to intrigue the mind of science. The problem, if solved in its elementary aspects, would place homeopathic principles on a footing with the field attained by foremost scientific pioneers in the field. So, what he is explaining? How much energy is released? Is it able? Are you able to calculate? No, and it is very difficult to calculate also. And that's why we have labeled it by the name of certain scale 1x, 2x, 3x, 4x. But again, the question or problem arises. Instead of giving 10 succussions, if you would have given 100 succussions, what will happen? We have not reduced the dose, but instead of giving 10 succussions, what will happen if we give or if we add 90 more succussions? Anyone who will answer this question? What can be the possibility? The possibility is that even though potency remains the same, the atoms remain the same, when you apply, instead of 10 succussions, if you give 100 succussions, it means you have increased the energy. The energy level is increased, but potency is not yet changed. And when such a thing happens, then you cannot measure or you cannot differentiate. Such things, such possibilities are always there when we prepare homeopathic medicines and when we ask the patient to take in them in a specific manner. And these possibilities are there, and this is rather difficult question that how much energy is released. But if one goes with this aspect, he will be known in the field of homeopathy. Here we are faced with another problem in physics, which has to do with single remedy or polypharmacy. There is a reason for single remedy, even more profound than that practical one, first advanced by Hahnemann and his followers. That since we know from careful provings what a single remedy will do, we can depend upon its uniformity within certain limitations, but no one can predict the action of more than one remedy in combination or in alteration or in close proximity to each other. And this is an observation, not an explanation. So when we used to use medicine for proving, we used to take only one remedy at a time. So if we used to do proving with single remedy, we apply the law of simplex over there. When Hahnemann started doing his practice, he was using the medicines in the crude form. It was a long time after Hahnemann have started practicing, he came to the conclusion of potentized medicines. So the question of using one remedy at a time was there, um, solved by Hahnemann by giving or developing a law of simplex. And that's why he has very specifically mentioned that one should give a remedy, one remedy at a time, and one should prove the one remedy at a time. Then second important thing was that when we mix together two ingredients or three ingredients, we don't know what new element have no new molecule which is developed have a characteristic. So mixing them together and proving them, this possibility was not followed over there, and because of which we don't know what will happen. Third thing, it is again one thing one can go for such types of practical experiments, and one can come out that if there are three remedies which are mixed together and then triturated or then succused, what will happen? This is a question of experimentation and this is a question of the time. But generally, when Hahnemann even started practicing with the potentized remedies, he remains fixed with the same law, but he has used one word over there. Giving a single simple remedy to a patient at one time, and this is written in italics in the Organon of medicine. So at a one time, this is very specifically mentioned by him over there. So naturally, when we prove a remedy, a single remedy at a time, we know all its characteristics. It is not complex. And then it becomes rather simple to understand and rather simple to utilize. So this question was solved with the help of that, but there is a field open to all of you to work with mixing of medicines and specific proportions and proving them and finding it out a thing. So what he is explaining the law of simplex, law of minimum dose, and how it is scientific. Just now I said that when we just increase the number of succussions instead of reducing the dose, it will just increase the energy. Potency will not change. Potency is changed once you reduce the dose. If you have prepared, for example, the 200 potency, and from 200 you have taken one drop and then added again the 100 drops, and then you have given the 10 succussions or 100 succussions, yes, definitely potency will increase. But now instead of reducing it, you have added 100 more succussions. Potency will not change. Potency will be the same because you have not reduced. Then there will be only increase in energy of that medicine, nothing more than that. Once you reduce, then potency will increase. So for further step, we used to take 1:100 proportion. Then we are reducing the medicine, and then potency will change. Otherwise, potency will not change. Is it okay? So that's all for today. If there will be no DJ or anything over there, we'll definitely continue with our sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Have a good evening.
Thank you.